welcome back to Channel 3 News, everyone. Tonight, we have a breaking special report on youth risk behavior and relationships and social development. Vaping and cell phone use among teens has become an increasingly serious problem in schools all across the country. Vaping among youth has gotten so bad that the FDA has officially declared it a public health epidemic. Data from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey indicates that over 1/4 of high school students currently use tobacco products, and since 2014, vapes were the most commonly used tobacco product amongst youth in the United States. Rates of vape use among adolescents continue to increase this year, and the many harmful toxins that vapes contain are posing serious health risks to your teen. Youth who use tobacco products are at a higher likelihood of developing mental health issues such as anxiety or depression. Vapes only first became available in the United States back in 2006, and the worst their long-term health impacts has not been realized yet. Another growing public health concern relates to how teens are impacted by the regular use of smartphones. Evidence shows that, like vaping, smartphone use can lead to the development of cognitive and mental health issues among teens. Over half of the states in the country have already passed laws banning the use of cell phones in schools, but more work still needs to be done to protect the mental well-being of your teen. I'm joined by experts on the subject, Andrew and Emily, who are here to discuss the issue and how it's impacting our youth. But first, let's go to our correspondent, Evie, who is in the field.
Thanks for the introduction, Mason. I'm here at Stonyfield High School, where a student was recently apprehended after a picture of them vaping on school grounds was circulated on social media. The student's parents were called, and after a restorative conversation on the harmful effects of teen smoking, the student performed community service for the school to make up for the infraction. Aside from the obvious health crisis, another insidious crisis was brought to the attention of school administration: cell phone use. With the new ban of cell phones in all public schools in Vermont, this has sparked an important debate on the harmful effects of cell phones in schools and outside of school on our youth population. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, 53% of schools report negative impacts of cell phones on academic performance, with even more reporting negative effects on students' mental health and the quality of their peer relationships. A total ban on cell phones in schools is the natural response to this crisis. But how are cell phones affecting your children outside of school environments? According to the Pew Research Center, 59% of teenagers have self-reported being cyberbullied in the form of name-calling, rumor spreading, sending and receiving explicit images, and overt tracking of their locations. While texting and social media are the two primary ways that teens feel connected to their peers, the margin of harmful use of this technology is impacting our students. Students report feeling lonely or left out based off of what images they see on social media. When we asked a group of 10th graders who reported being cyberbullied why they continued to use social media apps if it wasn't fun for them, the majority of them stated they didn't want to miss out on the activities that their peers were posting about. Apparently, this FOMO that these students describes is what keeps teenagers glued to their smartphone screens at the dinner table, in classes, and late at night. So what does this all have to do with our student from before who got in trouble for posting a picture while vaping in the bathroom? When asked about what influenced her to post this picture, this student stated that she had seen her friends post similar pictures in the same situation, and that they had dared her to do the same in order to achieve a certain level of coolness. She stated that this is not something that she would normally do in between classes, but she wanted the peers that she ate lunch with to think that she was also cool. It sounds like our student learned firsthand the price one pays to be included.
Thanks for that, Evie. So we're seeing more and more places banning cell phones in schools. But what can be done to protect kids outside of school?
That's a great question, Mason. And yes, the recent phone bans across Vermont will hopefully protect students from the insidious nature of screen times in schools, despite intense rejections from the students themselves. But then again, What high schooler knows what's actually good for them? In terms of outside of school, I would encourage parents to monitor phone use whenever possible. Personally, my teenage kids are not allowed to have their phones in their rooms. There are apps that parents can use to lock their kids' phones after a certain time, track what their kids do on their phones, or, if all else fails, go back to the good old-fashioned times of flip phones. Your kid might be upset about that, but it's better to have an upset teenager than a technology-addicted one.
I sure do miss the days of flip phones. It was a simpler time. You mentioned that many teens struggle with FOMO. Why do you think that is?
That is another great question, Mason. Thank you for that. The reason why we say that FOMO is a key contributor to cell phone addiction is because it allows for teens to feel connected to their peers even when they're not in school. Adolescence is a key point of brain development, as I'm sure we all remember, where the feeling of being wanted within a group of peer relationships and finding belonging within your community is central to your experience at school.
Thanks, Evie. There's no doubt that cell phone use among adolescents has become a major issue in today's world. But what are some reasons as to why this is occurring? One explanation as to why cell phone use has become so detrimental to adolescents today is because of observational learning theory. This theory was founded by Canadian-American psychologist Albert Bandura. This theory involves individuals learning and adopting from observing others. This process often involves modeling after those who are similar, of high status, those who are knowledgeable, those who are rewarded, and nurturing figures in our lives. Within this theory, Bandura identifies three primary models of observational learning. Live modeling, which is observing an individual's actions and then imitating them. Verbal instruction modeling, which is listening to verbal instruction and then acting based on what we hear. And finally, symbolic modeling, which is learning and imitating through what we see in the media. This could be books, television shows, movies, and even social media. Cell phone use is largely connected with Bandura's symbolic modeling, especially today. According to the Pew Research Center, at least 95% of teens in the US have access to cell phones, as you can see in this graph. And if they don't have access to cell phones, they have access to another one of these devices that connects them to the internet. The Pew Research Center also did a study on social media use, focusing on the 5 major social media platforms. This includes YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook. As of 2023, 1/3 of teens say that they use at least one of these 5 social media platforms constantly. 6 in 10 teens say that they visit TikTok daily. 16% of those teens report using this app almost constantly. These statistics have only risen since 2023. With the prevalence of cell phone and social media use, symbolic modeling has created more and more problems for adolescents today. They're exposed to positive depictions of underage drinking, of drug use, vaping, and bullying. On top of all of that, they're being influenced by products, wear specific styles of clothing, and to act a certain way. Those TikTok trends we all see circulating the internet, those are a result of observational learning theory. Watching fit check videos on TikTok or seeing influencers create a new recipe on Food Talk might just inspire us to dress in a similar way or to start experimenting with cooking ourselves. Despite whether or not these trends are good or bad, adolescents, the more they're exposed to them, are more likely to adopt them into their own lives. Adapting these trends and other actions seen on social media is also largely connected to our need for belonging. According to the UCLA Center for Developing Adolescents, the need for belonging is fundamental for our well-being and rooted in our biology, as feeling and being connected to others has always been necessary for our survival. In another study by the Pew Research Center in 2024, they found that over half of teenagers that they interviewed say that what they see on the internet makes them feel more accepted, or that they have people who will support them during difficult times. Adolescents have started to turn to their cell phones and social media to find belonging because of how accessible and easy it is to use this technology and how easy it is to find belonging within these. If teenagers aren't feeling accepted in real life, they turn to social media to find that sense of belonging that they so desperately crave. Just as Evie mentioned before, adolescence is a crucial period for development, so connection and belonging is crucial for adolescents. Because of this, they may also use social media to depict themselves in a certain way to impress their peers. They do this so that they'll feel accepted in real life. Although there are many positive outcomes of social media, there are also many negative effects that are severely impacting adolescents in and out of school. It's crucial to understand this problem and to understand what might be causing these negative effects of social media so that we can work to improve the situation before it gets out of hand. Hopefully, Vermont's cell phone ban within schools is a step towards amending this issue. Back to you, Mason.
Thanks for that, Emily. Now to our correspondent, Eric, who is live in the field with a special report.
Thank you, Mason. I'm here at Stonyfield High School, which some have called the epicenter of the adolescent e-cigarette or vaping epidemic here in Vermont. As some of our viewers may remember, cigarette smoking was once rampant among our youth. According to the CDC, 7 in 10 high schoolers had tried cigarettes in the early 90s, with more than a quarter being current smokers. Much attention was paid to this health and moral crisis, and thankfully, much progress was made. Today, less than a third of high school students have tried cigarettes, and less than 1 in 10 currently smoke. Unfortunately, the specter of teen smoking has been supplanted by perhaps a more alarming trend: vaping. Today, more than 1 in 5 high school students vape, and that figure is suspected to be significantly higher here at Stonyfield. Parents are at a loss. They say their children have been trained in this deviant behavior by their peers. They also point to predatory marketing techniques used by e-cigarette companies, including the selling of flavored vapes. As we know, the brain is at its most impressionable during adolescence, as well as being at its likeliest to take risks. Parents report a struggle between providing their children with the autonomy they crave during these formative years, with the behavioral monitoring required to prevent vaping addiction. Intriguingly, parents who themselves smoke cigarettes or vape seem unaware that their example is rubbing off on their children. Schools, too, are struggling to deal with this issue. Despite a clear ban on e-cigarettes included in the Stonyfield High School Student Handbook, teachers and administrators report catching students in hallways, bathrooms, stairwells, and yes, even classrooms, vaping. To combat the rise in vaping, a committee has been formed to draft a plan of steps to take to begin creating a positive school culture, which encourages connection between and support of students. These efforts are ongoing.
Eric, it sounds like you've spoken to parents and teachers, but our viewers may still be wondering, how do students feel about all this?
That is an excellent question, Mason. I did speak to some students, although I was reluctant because I neglected to bring a gas mask with me here today. Many students claimed they have never vaped, which I found hard to believe, but nonetheless may be true. Those students who were willing to admit their deviancy claimed they started vaping because their friends were, and that it seemed cool. When asked what they thought about partaking in a behavior that is clearly against school rules, some claimed that the fact that vaping is prohibited made them even more interested in it. Some students I spoke with indicated a desire to hear from their teachers and principal in a more personal way, rather than being lectured at about what they should and should not be doing.
Fascinating. Were there any students who had vaped but were able to stop?
Yes, I did speak to one student who quit vaping because her friends said it brought bad vibes into the group dynamic.
Yes, I can certainly see how vaping could result in negative aura. Now we're going to go to one of our experts, Andrew, who's going to discuss some of the theories behind this topic.
Okay, Mason, let's take a look at Stonyfield from the perspective of conditioning theory. I won't bore you by reviewing Pavlov's dog and classical conditioning, which I'm sure the entire Stonyfield community considers when doing most anything repeatedly. Instead, let's skip to B.F. Skinner, whose research revealed the mechanics of operant conditioning. Skinner's work found that conditioned subjects recognize the antecedent of a reward and will knowingly perform an action in anticipation of obtaining a positive reward or avoiding a consequence. In the case of Eric's report, when any member of the Stonyfield Vaping Society has a passing thought about vaping for any reason, they can't resist the rewards of being a rebel, looking cool, showing off their expensive devices, showcasing their distaste for the existing curriculum, their taste for a flavored e-cigarette, and a need for nicotine buzz. In other words, there's either a lot of self-medicating going on in Stonyfield, or a deviance contagion outbreak. And a deviant contagion just leads us back to Skinner. Either way, they need to build a model of what is going on in their Bronfenbrenner mesosystem.
Andrew, so you can zoom in on what they might do to model their Bronfenbrenner mesosystem.
Well, Mason, research suggests that individuals who have experienced trauma are in the low estimates nearly twice as likely to use nicotine as those without traumatic experiences. It seems prudent to me that the Stonyfield community take out their Bruce Perry Trauma Field Guide and take stock of every child's ability to regulate, relate, and reason, and do this on a fine-grained level. Vaping may be a single data point here, Mason, but Eric's report suggests these kids may be vaping because, as Dr. Perry would say, their neurosequential inverted triangle needs longer sides. Of course, I'm 110% confident that Stonyfield committee Eric mentioned is well aware of this and are already thumbing through Dr. Perry's NSE to design street data collection. They can cross-reference this data with student self-determination theory profile surveys so they can create interventions for all the vulnerable kids. They really need to boost up that sense of attunement in the community. And while they're at it, they may as well use all this data to enrich their Bronfenbrenner mesosystems interactions, making that mesosystem healthier for everyone, not just for students. Back to you.
That concludes our special report. Thanks for tuning in. Now to sports and weather.